Callie was shocked to hear the old woman talk about a metal that flies through the air, a carriage that moves without a horse, and a person in a box. He thought she might have seen what he had done in the past, so he couldn't understand what she was saying. At the same time, the woman was trying to figure out what was going on with Callie. She had seen that Callie was a guy with a lot of energy, but she was shocked that he was just becoming a slave. Over the next 3 days, Callie was seen as needing to protect Azealia from harm. Finally, he went back to the locker room where he thought he could train right away, but somehow that didn't work out. As he was walking back to his room, he ran into 2 guards who were trying to start a fight with him. He tried to stop them by telling them not to fight, but they didn't listen and started fighting right away. The Duke walked over while they were fighting. They all stopped to show respect for him. However, the guards asked the Duke why a slave like Callie came to a citizen's home, since they thought he shouldn't have been allowed there in the first place. But the Duke told them that Callie actually belonged to Baron Agesta, one of his clients. When the Duke saw Callie for the first time, he didn't know that he was a fighter. So he asked Callie if he was one of the fighters who beat the Doorman's fighters. Callie later said that he was, but the Duke didn't believe him, so he thought Callie was probably hiding something. Duke tried to tell Callie that he was sorry for how he acted earlier, and that he was just very excited to meet one of the fighters. He then left Callie and said that he hoped to see him at the match. Callie watched him with sadness as he left. There are places for slaves and soldiers to stay. Callie went there after leaving the Duke's house. He thought it was best to train there because he had a lot on his mind. He was training when he heard someone asking him behind his back if it would be okay to stay in the castle for 3 days. He was tired of being annoyed, though. At that point, someone said the place was bigger than the last one, so it was called their bigger place than the last one. People who were training to fight demons as slaves and stray attackers both used the area. People even told him that he might not have to play if he was lucky, because he would be the only one left in the round. Then Torres went to ask Nixar if they were lucky. Nixar told Torres that they were lucky right now, because he was 100 years too early to deal with the other attackers who were gathering there. Also, Torres understood Nixar's message, which was that he should stay in training camp. But he promised that he was ready to win everything at that point. Nixar kicked him and told him that he was probably going to die before his start, even though he looked ready to fight. Due to the large number of boxers who have won dozens of fights in a row, with dozens of them hidden below. Nixar told Torres that he would have killed him with his hands if it weren't for the fight. And he told his instructor that he was sorry. His instructor told him that sometimes even the best fighters lose focus during a match, which is why the instructor was worried about Kijo. Kijo reassured his teacher that he was fine. While they were standing with Callie, they heard a chain moving toward them and knew it was the ogre coming from Doorman. Before they knew it, the ogre showed up. Nixar knew that Baron Doorman had sharpened his sword, which made him doubt that he had brought that monster. Meanwhile, Kijo didn't know anything about the ogre, so he asked Nixar if it was a person. Nixar told Kyo that the ogre was on the same level as a monster. When you looked at the ogre, Callie, it seemed like it was from a magical world. Doramon's monster, on the other hand, was a fierce fighter who has won 76 times in a year. Nixar said that Torres would have fought the giant. The master told him it was too early for him, so Torres might not go there. Then Torres became interested in Ogre, a name he made up for himself. Torres thinks he's exaggerating. You could see that it looked like they were from different species. Kyo saw that Callie wasn't trying to attack the Ogre either, so he assumed that Callie didn't want to fight the Ogre either. He didn't know that Callie was already making plans for how and where to hit the Ogre with his hand if he fought him. He gave up when he couldn't think of a way to do it. Kijo was shocked that he didn't know Callie was trying to find a way to beat the ogre. That made him think that Callie was different from normal people, just like the ogre. After that, the match schedule was stuck on the wall, and Baron Joseph was seen leaving, hoping to see Baron Gadolf again soon. Baron Joseph only told Baron Galdolf not to worry, because he thought the fighters would lose to his ogre. Gadolf defended his fighters even though he knew they weren't sure they could beat the ogre. Nixar loved that he stood up for his fighters. Nixar was shocked when Joseph asked for 3 fighters to fight his monster. He didn't want his fighters to die. When they looked at the list of games, they saw that Torres was on the first day, and Callie and Kijo were on the second. But Ogre was there too on the first day. Nixar said he didn't want to fight them. That's too bad for the other attackers who have to fight the Ogre. At Wistry Stadium on the first day of the match, Burrito was seen fighting the giant. He fought hard, but the Ogre had the upper hand until it broke the pillar. At that point, Joseph claimed that he didn't like how he broke the pillar, so he told Gadolf that he would fix it after the match. But inside, he was hoping that the Ogre would beat Burrito. While Callie stood there and watched the Ogre move, the other attackers hoped that Burrito would not give up. Fortunately, Burrito died very badly because the Ogre killed him with just one hand. Callie was shocked because he didn't think Burrito would die that way, even though many fighters had died fighting ogres before, but not as badly as Burrito. Because he didn't want to die, Torres saw how things were going and knew that the Ogre wanted to kill them as well as beat them. This made him question why he wouldn't fight the Ogre, but Callie didn't say anything. He didn't even say that he was still looking for his own way to beat the Ogre. Later, Azalea met Callie and tried to bother him by reminding him that fighters had died. She told him that if he fought the Ogre, he would probably die too, so she just stood up to greet him. Callie said that he wasn't going to die, even if other attackers couldn't beat the Ogre. That didn't apply to him. That's when Azalea knew he meant it. She told Callie that if he won the fight, she would dedicate herself to his success. That's why Callie said he was sure to win. After getting ready, Callie was ready to fight the next day. But Nixar was already worried about him because he didn't know how determined he was to win. That being said, Nixar did notice that Callie had grown because his back and arm muscles were bigger than they used to be. Caesar was an experienced fighter from the Vataman training camp who was going to fight Callie. Caesar was 21 wins strong, and Callie looked like a child next to Caesar. Caesars had already won a fight against an experienced fighter. From where she was sitting in the corner, Azalea could see that Callie was going to win for sure. The man sitting next to her said that Caesar would win the fight because he is popular, but Azalea defended Callie and said that he was more likely to win. After the man started talking about Caesar, Azalea asked them to bet. She said that if Callie lost, she would spend the night with him, and if Callie won, Velan would buy her a nice ruby necklace at the craft store he went to the day before. The fight then began. Callie and Caesar jumped right into it. At first, Callie was dodging all of Caesar's punches, which surprised Caesar. He made sure that Callie would not be able to dodge again, and he did so well that he managed to land a small hit on Callie, making everyone think that Caesar would win the fight. The person who bet with Azalea also thought that Caesar already owned it. Then Callie hit him hard. The story changed. Everyone was shocked that he was still able to win at the very end. At that point, everyone remembered him as the person who beat Doraemon's fighter. One man even said he had heard Callie win the fight while his eyes were closed. Velan, on the other hand, thought Callie had lost and was shocked when things changed. Azalea, on the other hand, wasn't surprised at all because she had known from the beginning that Callie would win. Even Caesar couldn't believe Callie could still win him over. While the fight went on, Callie thought of a way to beat Caesar with just one blow. Then he finally saw a chance to win right away. He can't miss it now. He charged at Caesar with all his might, and Nixar saw that the punch Callie threw in the middle of a crazy dash hit Caesar. Callie thinks he has been enjoying the benefits of his steady muscle training, even though it was something he never thought he could achieve with his weak body. Not an attack based on how the opponent moves and uses weight. Caesar gushed blood out of his body when Callie delivered a punch with all of his strength, and Callie kept punching Caesar until he passed out. Nixar could tell that Callie had grown a lot by the way she fought. It didn't take Callie long to realize that Caesar had used all of his last-ditch efforts to fight Callie. However, that was in vain, as Callie struck Caesar instead. The manner in which it severed his arm led Caesar to believe it was not a typical blow. Callie then hit him in the face one last time, making him fall to the ground. Callie was the winner. Velan was very angry about this because he thought it was possible for a skinny guy like Callie to beat a big guy like Caesar. But Azalea saw that he had no choice since she had already won the bet. Baron Gadolf was very proud of the fact that he raised Callie and showed how happy he was with the win. The Adjust camp was happy that they won, but the man was mad. Azalea made him remember the necklace he promised her because she knew he would. Callie was also happy because he knew that every time he won, he got stronger. Icho was already scared because it looked like he would be in the next match. Callie told him he could do it, just like he did in the last match. He didn't believe Callie though because he thought it was impossible. Anyway, he later went to fight, won using the method Callie taught him. He was happy to have made it back alive, even though one of his eyes was hurt. Later, the man told Azalea his name was Wylan Joseph. He was the second son of Count Joseph. Azalea felt bad because she knew Wylan had already seen her as the girl from the weak Baron family. It is well known that the Joseph family has a lot of power in central affairs. When Azalea's dad saw her with Wylan, he was happy, and his daughter knew that because she knew that her dad was happy to find a groom and was acting like a jerk around the guy, which made Azalea feel something. As that was going on, Azalea got angry and tried to leave, but her father begged her to talk to Wylan. She refused, saying she didn't want to talk to the guy. But over time, she gave in. While they were talking, Callie walked by and saw the Baron with his daughter. This made him think of how the Baron runs a boxing gym. Even though he doesn't know anything about it, he only cares about making money right away. Which say Gadolf was a greedy Baron because he sold off his apprentices, who were the assets of his land. He didn't go bankrupt. Callie walked up to Wylan and told him who he was out of anger. Wylan was scared at first, but later he got up the courage to threaten Callie back. Callie didn't feel any pressure and just left him. Wylan left with Azalea. Callie was meant to be with Azalea because they made a promise. But Gadolf changed their plans, which made Callie very angry, but he had no choice. Azalea was seen sitting by a lake with the second son of the Joseph family. Callie was seen lying down on the field nearby at the same time. They were sitting with Velon, which made him mad. He then got lost in his thoughts and remembered a time in his past life when he was so good at fighting, he thought no one could stand after getting hit by him. He really did think that. He was so arrogant that he broke his hand in a fight. He acted meanly as if he wanted to get paid for it, which is what he thought he could do. He woke up out of the blue at that moment. His dream made him promise himself that he would never live his life that way again if he could. A maid then came up to him and asked for help. Velon, who wanted Azalea to pay him back with her body for the necklace she won in a bet, was being mean to her when she was seen. But Azalea won't agree because she won the necklace in a fair bet, so she hit him because she kicked him in the back. That made him very angry. Callie ran over, but Joseph's family men stopped him because they wanted their young boss to have some time to himself. However, Callie didn't waste any time with the guys because he was angry because Azalea was angry. After that, he killed the young master of Joseph's family. Then he yelled at the young master and asked him if he was doing the right thing. The young master informed him that gold was required to pay for him. Callie hit him right away, though, and he asked if he was sober now. The young master said he was sorry. During this, Azalea was worried that Callie's actions had hurt the Joseph family. Guards from Joseph's family showed up at this point. The young master told them to kill Callie. The lords who were at the harvest party quickly heard that a slave had attacked Joseph's second son. In answer, Joseph's family made a terrible choice. To protect their honor, they decided to kill Callie. The second son's opinion shifted, however. He took a definite stand. The Aegis family would not run for office as a result of recent events. Even though things were tense, Azalea's father showed a wide range of feelings. Even though he seemed scared on the outside, he was really very angry at Velon Joseph, second son of the Joseph family, for being so bold as to hurt his daughter. This mix of fear and anger made the situation even worse. It showed how much Azalea's father loved and protected his family. To make things even more complicated, Nixstar told them that Callie had been caught by the guard and was being held captive with no quick way to escape. When they found out that Callie was in the guard's care, it made things even more urgent and scary. Callie's life was hanging in the balance. While everything was going on, Azalea's father felt relieved because he thought Callie had died and that he had protected his daughter. In a scary and grim threat, he told Callie that if she sided with him, bad things would happen to their whole family. This fear hung over us like a dark cloud, carrying the weight of a possible tragedy. At this very tense moment, Azalea walked in and fought hard for Callie's safety, saying that he had saved her life twice. Her father's answer, however, was vague and short. He just said that he would handle the problem. After this short conversation, he told Nixstar to take Azalea away. Azalea had a deep understanding of her father's habits, because she saw him do them. She knew exactly what he was going to do, because she knew him so well. Nixstar tried to make things clear. It looked like they were going to have to decide to throw Callie out, which filled the air with a sense of impending doom. In a strange turn of events, another prisoner ended up locked up with Callie. This person said they had heard that Callie had attacked a nobleman, which made Callie say that the nobleman was actually a hero. The prisoner told Callie that he was there because he stole something, and that there was a much worse sentence that could happen for Callie. He could be decapitated instead of losing his hands. A passing guard quickly cut them off in the middle of their talk by telling them to be quiet. Setting their situations next to each other brought out the variety of situations and possible results that can happen in jail. For Callie, thinking about missing the chance to go boxing again made him feel a deep sense of sorrow. Even though he felt bad about giving up his chance at boxing, he knew that the guilt he would feel for the rest of his life if he hadn't stepped in to save Azalea was much worse. After that, Callie had to go to court, where the judge directly asked him if he admitted to hitting Vaylon Joseph. The undeniable truth stood out in the courtroom. Callie had done the wrong thing. As people in the crowd realized how serious the situation was, their calls for Callie's execution became stronger. They said that his actions justified the harshest punishment possible. This strong desire for revenge sent Callie a scary message. It made her realize that the people who were gathering behind Azalea didn't have nearly as much power as Vaylon's group did. The judge informed everyone in a harsh and clear voice that Callie would be killed. He begged anyone who didn't agree with this harsh decision to say so before he sealed Callie's fate with a loud swish of the gavel. There was palpable tension in the room because of the heavy weight of silence. In the middle of this tense situation, a noble said something cruel and degrading about Callie. They said that he was like a battle slave, and that his death should be like the death of a warrior slave. The word was full of disrespect, which highlighted the big gap between groups of people and the inherent biases that are deeply ingrained in the court's culture. This heartless announcement made the sharp differences in how people were treated and how little they cared about Callie's humanity stand out even more. It condemned him to a fate that was appropriate for someone of his status. Surprisingly, a nobleman in the courtroom suggested a strange way to decide what would happen to Callie. This nobleman talked about a respected slave named Ogre Dolman, whose death was like an execution. As a drastic measure, the noble recommended that Ogre and Callie fight in a final match, but only if the Earl agreed. Surprisingly, the Earl agreed with this idea. That this match was coming up was a turning point for Callie, who had planned to buy his freedom before this happened. Knowing there was a chance, another lord spoke up, which started a conversation in the court. After much thought, it was decided that instead of the death penalty, the Ogre of Dolmont and Callie would fight on the last day of the Harvest Fair. After this sudden turn of events, the court quickly threw out the case, leaving people excited and unsure about what would happen in the next fight. Vaylon was seen telling Callie in a spit-filled voice that he was definitely dead now, while he laughed happily to himself. Kaylee, on the other hand, was happy because he had chosen to stay alive until the end and put on a good show. The guard led Callie to a waiting room and offered some support by saying they would at least cheer for him. This happened right before the battle, which was a very moving moment. While sitting down and thinking, Callie took in the weight of the trial that was about to happen. Outside the waiting room, broken up talks could be heard, but they were hard to understand. This made Callie wait with tense anticipation. As this doubt grew, Nixstar, Kiyo, and Torres showed up to offer their support to Callie during this difficult time. There was a glimmer of comfort in their presence as the anxiety rose. Even though people were showing their support, feelings were running high in other places. Azalea was crying as she watched Callie do what she did. She might have been upset because of how rude she believed Callie to have been in the past. In a sincere admission, Torres admitted that he had looked down on Callie in the past, calling him a complainer. But now he saw Callie's inherent goodness and told him not to give up in the coming fight. In an effort to make Callie stronger, Nixar gave him food, pointing out how dangerous Ogre was. Even though Ogre was very strong physically, Nixar noticed that he was missing some skills that could help him in the upcoming battle. In a moving exchange, Torres wished Callie luck, which made Callie laugh out loud in the middle of the seriousness of the upcoming fight. This short break gave Callie a chance to think. He thought about the possibility that his death might at least make some people sad. In the middle of this intense undercurrent, Azalea walked up and told Callie that she was going to be honest with her. Callie told Azalea that she was worried about her safety and told her to put her health first, mentioning that she had been in danger before with crooks and a prince. As a response, Azalea could tell Callie was scared and offered to reassure him by saying she would be happy for him to be her guardian if his fear was real. A surprise kiss came right after this statement. Azalea's quick move caught Callie off guard. She asked her to explain. With tears in her eyes, she admitted that she was confused, couldn't explain what she had done on the spot. During this emotional storm, Callie, who was worried and unsure of what would happen, begged Azalea to promise that he would win the upcoming fight. His plea was filled with hope, desperation, and a deep-seated desire for a good outcome in the face of the unknown. Callie felt things after talking to Azalea. He told Azalea that being around her made the thought of facing death harder. Even so, he made a serious promise to protect her until she was old enough to make her own decisions. This promise showed how deeply he cared for her. The long-awaited fight between Ogre of Dolment, who was known as the Executioner, and Callie, who is now on death row but has become a battle slave, finally started on the main stage. This significant period, which coincided with the event's peak intensity, captured the attention of the crowd. Standing face to face with the huge ogre, Callie noticed how big his opponent was, and thought that an opponent that big probably didn't need to use complicated moves as much. After bracing himself, Callie attacked quickly and hit the ogre in the ribs with great force. The ogre hit back, but the blow didn't seem to bother him. When the ogre counterattacked, Callie quickly dodged it. The force of his punch was so strong that it could stop a major tornado. After their heated argument with the ogre, Callie had an insight when he saw how fair the world was made. The ogre had a huge body that looked like it was a gift from a greater power, but he wasn't very smart. Because of this mismatch, Callie had to use his brain to get around his natural weakness. It made me think of a known idea, which people have to use their minds to beat opponents who are smarter than them. This shows that people can plan and succeed despite some natural differences. The audacious move by Callie, confronting the formidable ogre, stirred a wave of incredulity among onlookers, who deemed it an act of sheer recklessness owing to the immense peril involved. When the ogre lunged forward, Callie swiftly evaded the strike, retaliating in an instant and audaciously remarking on the ogre's sluggishness. Yet the shock coursed through Callie as he realized the ogre's surprising agility despite its colossal stature. This unforeseen swiftness heightened the gravity of the confrontation, intensifying Callie's realization that any misstep in this lethal dance could spell his untimely demise. The looming battle not only encompassed physical danger, but also carried emotional weight. Despite Callie's frailty and imminent fate due to illness, a surprising sentiment permeated the assembly. Usually detached and indifferent barons felt a twinge of sympathy towards Callie. This unexpected empathy underscored the gravity of the situation and hinted at the profound impact of Callie's plight on those witnessing the perilous clash. On the other hand, the ogre was taking a lot of damage, and Callie could be seen doing everything he could to escape going down. It was clear that everything was going to plan for the ogre as he screamed. This helped Callie avoid getting hit, and with another powerful blow to the ribs, he killed the monster, shocking everyone. The giant was seen telling Kaylee to stop running while this was going on. But Kaylee was seen because he hit the ogre so hard that it screamed in pain. Kaylee hit the side of her hand for a reason. If you think your ogre is strong, you'll be shocked to see that Kaylee was having trouble with him. Kaylee also hoped to be able to pull off a trick like he had before with Kijo and Torres. After that, Torres told Kijo that they should cheer for Kaylee because he might win. Kaylee's plan to beat Ogre was to wear him out and hurt them over time. It was different from what he usually did, which was to go for the brain or throat. He thought that bigger opponents got tired faster and had less oxygen in their blood, so he thought that Ogre should be as big. What Kaylee saw, though, was wrong. The Ogre was still very strong, while he was the one who was getting tired. At that point, Ogre was seen charging at Callie. Kaylee avoided the blow right away, but he was already out of breath. His next attack came from an ogre. Kaylee had to move back a bit to escape it, but it still hit him hard and knocked him out. If Kaylee hadn't backed up, his arms would have broken. But the ogre was seen as his vision became hazy. Kaylee also saw this. He thought this was the ogre's first time moving around during a match this long, since he had already beaten all of his opponents with a single move. That is, the giant is a real person too. People saw the ogre gasping for air. He knew this was his last chance, so Kaylee charged at the ogre right away. He knew the ogre would have to risk everything at once, which would make him tired. Then he hit the ogre right away while avoiding the attack, but Kaylee's wrist got cut. He saw the ogre's chin was down and thought this was his chance. He hit the ogre hard in the chin with his left fist, quickly pulled away. He then charged at the ogre and hit it again in the back. This time, though, his right wrist hurt like it was broken. Kaylee did use it one more time and hit the giant hard. The giant finally fell over and hit his head. People couldn't believe what they saw, so there was complete quiet everywhere. Torres and Kicho were very happy that Kaylee won the deathmatch, though. Still, Kaylee knew that Ogre would have lost easily if he had known how to box right. It was so fast that Kaylee couldn't believe what he was seeing when he saw the Ogre stand up again. When the Ogre kicked Kaylee in the chest with his leg, Kaylee flew through the air. And Kaylee spat out some blood and fell backward. Even though Ogre knew he was wrong, it was still an execution match. People saw the giant run over and attack right away. Kaylee tried to avoid getting hit, but he fell and hurt his behind. The ogre then dropped something on Kaylee's leg and broke it. He then grabbed her by the neck. At that moment, Kaylee was having a hard time because his opponent wasn't trying to beat him. There was an ogre holding Kaylee by the neck. The ogre then hugged Kaylee tight. Kaylee screamed because he was hurt as his bones cracked. At the same time, Kaylee kept biting off the ogre's ear as an attack. People who were there thought Kaylee was even meaner than the giant after seeing this. While Ogre charged at Kaylee from the corner of the ring, Kaylee stood on his back. Since the ogre was getting closer, he quickly got some sand and threw it at the ogre's eyes. He knew the ogre was strong. The ogre got better quickly, though, because he hit Kaylee with his left elbow to stop the attack. Every bone in his body hurts. He felt soft on the inside, but it wasn't too painful. Then Kaylee kneed the giant in the face, which made him bleed from the nose. The Baron then saw that the fight wasn't between a person and a beast, but between two beasts. Some people in the crowd began to cheer for Kaylee to win at this point. Kaylee was seen hitting the ogre's chin over and over again. The giant finally said Kaylee had won. He then fell down. Everyone was shocked when Kaylee beat the ogre in the end. The guards were seen running over and saying that the killing would still happen. They were shocked when people began to boo and throw stones at them, telling them to leave Callie alone. That's when the Baron knew they had to let Kaylee live. The Harvest Festival is meant to win over the people. The people already liked Kaylee. They killed him. The Harvest Festival would have no point. After that, the Duke hoped that Earl Joseph would agree. Earl Joseph knew he could keep the Duke out of trouble with the government, but he would make it impossible for the Baron to live in peace. They didn't like Callie still being alive, though. Nixar saw Callie lying in bed in the hospital while he talked to the doctor. He's still alive is a wonder, the doctor told Nixar. Callie fought with his body. It shows how brave he is. Nixar had to pay for Kaylee's hospital stay, though, according to the doctor. Nixar believed Gadolf was still scared of Earl Joseph, since he couldn't even pay for Kaylee's hospital bills. Azalea then came forward with her earrings to pay the fee. That's when Kaylee woke up and spat blood out of her mouth. Azalea ran right over to him, and Kaylee asked what happened and was told that he would not be put to death because the crowd did not want him to. She also told him she was happy for him and that he had won. After a week, Kaylee was seen lying down in a cart. It was seen that Kijo was telling Kaylee that he was known for killing the ogre. Torres then said that he wished he could lie down and move like Kaylee could. He shouldn't be, Kaylee told him, because he felt worse. What did Kaylee remember? He remembered being told that his bones would heal properly and his tendons would stretch the way they should. It was his shin that was giving him trouble. He knew the ogre had fixed it well. Gadolf almost kicked him out, but Azalea and Nixar talked him out of it. He knew things would not get better for him, though. It was hard to get to Wistry Land, but it was peaceful on the way back. Then Kaylee and his friends went back to Agrest Land to rest. Winter came after 3 months. Gadolf was seen yelling at Nixar that he had been waiting 3 months for Kaylee to get better, but it looked like his shins were still hurt. Kaylee would have to walk with a limp for the rest of his life, because his bones were fixed wrong while he was having a growth spurt. He knew this from Nixar. Gadolf was yelling at Kaylee because it was winter. The seller wasn't coming by. He also ran out of food and firewood. Gadolf said Kaylee was to blame since the ogre should have killed him back then. Nixar doesn't want Kaylee to be kicked out, so he tries to convince Gadolf that Kaylee could become a teacher, even though Kaylee might not be able to box anymore. But Callie told them right away that he didn't want to be a teacher. Kicho then tried to convince Kaylee to become a teacher, but Kaylee turned him down because he still wanted to be a boxer. Even Nixar was sick of Kaylee because he knew how bad it was for him, that he could never box again. In the 3 months that they had been getting extra attention, Callie knew that both Kicho and Torres had been to a lot of events. He thought it would be useless to fight himself, though. 2 young guys thanked Callie for helping them cut down trees. Kaylee told them he was going to do it because he wanted to. They could see that Kaylee had gotten bigger and taller. He believed that cutting down trees had helped. After that, he told them to go home because it was getting cold. Before he went to sleep, he was very angry because his leg still wasn't healed. He was able to calm down because he knew things other fighters didn't. He also knew that the technology available at the time couldn't fix his leg. He finally saw Azalea in his room at this point. She told him she was leaving. Azalea was shocked, so Kaylee asked her where she was going. Azalea told Kaylee that the area is in bad shape because Joseph's family shut down the markets. Now only individual traders are stopping by. While it's getting colder, the cost of life keeps going up. There aren't enough basic or nice things to buy. At that rate, they won't make it through the winter. She chose to lead a group of merchants because her father still seemed scared of Earl Joseph. Then she told them she didn't want to lose because she knew that being fair doesn't mean anything without having power. Azalea was worried that his leg still wasn't fixed, so Kaylee told him she would go talk to someone in the merchant group who knows how to bring people back to life and make sure his leg got better. Kaylee told her not to worry because she wasn't supposed to help a slave like him. Azalea, on the other hand, told him that the 2 times he had saved her were enough for her to leave. At the same time, Kaylee thought he should change something about himself. A few days later, Kaylee was seen with some people who were cutting down trees. One of the other woodchoppers showed him how to do it much better while he started cutting down a tree. He told them that he was there to get better. And he was seen cutting down trees. He knew that this was a good way to work out his back and hips. But one of the people cutting down trees told everyone that a child bear had just gone by, and that they should all leave right away because it's better to be safe than sorry. One of the men knew that Kaylee had killed the giant, and told the others. They shouldn't be afraid of the bear as long as Kaylee is around. They wouldn't listen because they didn't want to risk their lives by going up against the bear. People told Torres that he should show Kaylee some skills because he was very stressed when he went to see him at work. He even tried to pick up a cup, but knocked it over by accident. He then said that this is how his body acts when he really loses it and can't see straight. Torres missed the rock that Kali threw at him and told him to grab it. When Kali heard this, he thought Torres might have retinal detachment, punch-drunk syndrome, or brain damage from a blow to the head. It scared him that if the blow to the head got any worse, he might not be able to do anything. Torres then said that was the reason he had gone to see Kali in the first place, to teach him how to do things. Later, Kali was seen because he taught Torres how to fight, which was better for him than dodging because he has trouble seeing. He gave him some advice. He also told him to take a break, but Torres said he couldn't because he was already busy, and other people were hurt. Gadolf, on the other hand, is not paying attention to Nixar anymore, which makes him careless. It looks like Azalea has also left. This means that she will be in charge of the training school and the whole area. The couple from Doran ran away at night when things were at their worst with territorial control. People who cut down trees were heard saying that Doran is a skilled worker and that he would be welcome anywhere. This was said even though they had nowhere to go. The tree-cutting worker was shocked to learn that Kali had already reached his goals and was now working out. Someone saw Kali hit a tree. The move is pretty rough, but it works. He knew that his bones would get stronger and more like those in weapons if he trained at the rate at which they should heal. No matter what, his only goal was to make his back and hips stronger. He found out that they had to leave after some time. The people who were cutting down trees were shocked when they saw a dead wolf. The bear probably hurt the wolf, and one of its young got attached to Kali and was brought back. Nixar walked in right then, as Kicho and Kali were looking at the cub. His anger turned to love for the cub, and in the end, he agreed with Kali that the animal should stay. Nixar also let Kali know that he would be helping to build the house the next day. Nixar thought it was a good trait as long as it always went in the wrong direction, when Kali said that their boss was stubborn and driven. Late at night, Gadolf had a very interesting thought. He could use the big boxing matches to meet merchants and wealthy people and make business links. He knew how valuable it was to have skilled boxers like Torres around. He saw a way to get more people to come by using his name for teaching the Ogre Slayer. He talked with Nixar about the idea of going up against the traveling Kataran boxing group, because they saw it as a way to bring new things and excitement to the area. Even though they knew they could lose some games, they were confident in their ability to handle the matches. This move wasn't just meant to help them win the fight. It was also meant to bring new life into their surroundings, and make their realm more appealing. After almost 10 days of hard work, their efforts paid off when a flood of fancy cars arrived at their home. Gadolf's plan worked out perfectly, because the Aegis area grew and had lots of important guests. Expectation and promise filled the air, and the excitement of the upcoming boxing fights and the mixing of people from different social classes filled the room. The mood was electric with excitement as people waited for a famous boxer's free match. In the first fight, an Aegis boxer tasted defeat, which set the stage for Kyo's upcoming fight and made the tension in the ring even higher. Surprisingly, a newbie came up to Kali and introduced himself as Shram the Sailor. Shram began to piece together a story about a shipwrecked ship and the slave dealers who captured him. Even though things were hard for him, Shram was determined to get away from his problems and go back to his hometown. There seemed to be a gap because Kali didn't seem to know about Shram's background in the sea. Kali's friends always said that he was the strongest person in the area, which Shram seemed to make fun of because Kali seemed to walk funny. In a playful exchange, Shram put Kali's supposed strength next to the rumor that he was limping, which seemed to poke fun at Kali's situation. Kali quickly changed the subject and reminded Shram of his job as a student, stressing how important it was to work hard at training. When Shram put out his hand for a handshake, Kali accepted it, even though Shram was joking. But then Kali showed a surprising amount of strength by almost crushing Shram's hand with an overpowering grip. This showed that he was stronger than he seemed. After the awkward handshake, Kali kindly asked Shram to watch the games that were still going on, inviting him to join in the fun. At the same time, Kicho's skill in the ring made people amazed and curious. His quick and accurate attacks against opponents far away made people compare him to a mantis, which shows how fast and accurate he was. When the attention turned to Torres, a seasoned boxer whose fight showed a worrying trend, his vision got worse, which meant that he might no longer be able to fight. There were some doubts in Torres' mind about how well Callie's methods would work in real life. When he realized this, he went back to his tried-and-true strategy, charging at full speed at his opponent, counting on his strength and speed to win. When Kaylee saw while watching the game that their opponent had copied their move and used it as a model for a new move he made up. They called it the Whistly style. This move was made by Duke Whistly and the fighters at the Harvest Fair. However, everyone, even those who don't know much about boxing, would understand that the move was based on Callie. Like Kaylee, Torres saw this coming and chose to use the defense method he had learned from him. He was able to avoid all of the attacks, then use the attacks to close in and hit back with his own attacks. This helped him win the match by making him faster, as he had moved his center of gravity. It was also normal for Torres to shift the center. A lot of lords liked Torres after he won the match, which made Gadolf happy. They want more fights like this one. But it had been a long time since the VIPs who were sent out talked to anyone. Gadolf then understood that the lords were just being polite. They had no plans to help Agest. He got very angry and kept asking for more drinks. After a few weeks, Kaylee was seen cutting wood to train, even though most people had given up because of what was going on. The woodchopper's captain recognized the wolf cub, which had grown a lot, and found out that Callie had named it Robo. After that, he led Robo into the forest. In the dark bush, it was the shape of a wolf. As he trained, Kaylee saw Torres, Kicho, and other fighters, and thought they were all very strong. After that, he thought about whether he should go back to boxing or become a teacher. But Robo had a feeling, and howled right then. Robo was being noisy. Callie knew what it was. He trained hard, but his injured leg started to hurt, so he had to take a break. During his rest, a bear came out of the bush. It looked strong, not quite an adult yet, and it moved quickly. Callie knew he couldn't run away with his legs. The bear struck him very badly, but he stood his ground with his hands. The bear also cut Callie on the chest. After that, Callie was seen at the house where the woodchopper captain was. Callie was badly hurt, and there was a dead bear next to her. This shocked the captain. The story that Callie caught a bear with his bare hands spread quickly. Some people thought it was more than likely true. The loggers were sure it was true. They were aware of this because they saw human-caused tree damage. The long, hard winter was finally over, and the farm was full of people again. Shelia also came back with many shopping carts full of valuable things. She saw a blonde boy who made her think of Callie and wondered how he was doing. When he came back, Azalea's arrival caused a lot of joy, as her achievements put her at the top of the list of successful people. When Callie heard the news, it interested him, so he went home and left his loyal dog Rovo there. He chose to go to a nearby party instead. While everyone at the party was laughing and having a good time, Callie ate a delicious pork dish with his friends. A guard came in with important news. Azalea, a well-known person, asked Callie to be there right away. He went to where Azalea was because he was interested, and found her having dinner with her father. As soon as Callie joined them, Azalea, who is known for both her success and her kindness, asked how he was doing. Her careful eyes caught his small limp, which made her worry about his leg. She asked about his comfort to show that she really cared. While Callie admitted that his leg hurt all the time, he said that he had grown used to it, and that it didn't bother him as much as it used to. Azalea's clever escape to the royal city, which she did to evade Earl Joseph's watchful eye while she worked on her projects, marked her rise to fame. The royal city is a stronghold of power because it is home to a strong and fearsome army. Their shared ancestry brings them together through their language and habits, connecting them in a cultural lineage. The story is made even more interesting by the mention of the famous God Doctor, who was admired for what seemed like his magical surgical skills. People call this doctor God Doctor, which suggests that they are very skilled, almost divinely skilled. They can do complicated surgeries, like reattaching parts that have been cut off. Stories about people with such skills are definitely amazing. But in the middle of these stories of wonder, Godolph adds a bit of doubt. He seems to be slightly skeptical about the God Doctor's ability to do everything. Even though the Doctor is praised for their skills, there seems to be an unspoken limit to what they can do, especially when it comes to treating nobles from their own country. This doubt adds a note of caution, implying that while outside knowledge may be useful, there are subtleties and difficulties unique to their own culture that may be beyond the reach of even the most respected experts. Because Azalea is friends with someone in the respected royal family, they start to think about how they could include Callie in their plans after a break. Godolph's pure joy is evident as he holds his daughter, which is very different from Callie's deep worry about what will happen to his legs. Azalea is very aware of how different their social classes are. She knows how big of a gap there is between her poor position as a lord and the royal family's high position. She carefully walks this fine line because she doesn't want Callie to figure out all the details. After that, Nixar fights Callie and tells him about the upcoming pugilist test the next day. Their chat veers off track as they talk about new employees on the grounds, bringing up names like Shram and Takayan. Even though things look good, Callie is very worried about his legs healing, which makes him feel very uneasy. He struggles with inner turmoil, but decides to find peace and happiness in the end, helped by the praise for Azalea's efforts. Callie learns about Kijo's role in the upcoming pugilist contest when he accidentally shows up in his room playing with Rovo. This happens in a different setting. As the day of the trainee pugilist test began, people were both excited and nervous. In this ritual, the fate of an apprentice depended on how their teachers judged them. When someone wins, they go from being a student to a real boxer. People in Aegis didn't know about a strange side effect of the rite, though. The best apprentice became a full pugilist, making the test more of a paradoxical, high-stakes event. The principles were easy to understand, but very tense. Each apprentice drew lots to choose their opponent, which made for a very heated fight. Kijo was one of the first people to fight. He had the same strong desire to get better as Torres and Callie. Each of them had a strong desire for advancement. This goal served as the driving force behind their work. Things changed a lot when Shram did something different when it was his turn. Instead of relying on luck, he decided to go against Callie and challenge her directly. He didn't want to take a chance, so he went up to Callie and told him not to let his hurt leg get in the way of the fight. Not only did they fight physically, but they also had a clash of wills, beliefs, and unresolved tensions. The argument turned into a tense and unstable fight, which showed that there were greater problems going on below the surface. Shram's brave break from tradition led to a fight that went beyond physical combat, into issues of personal beliefs, limitations, and the never-ending chase of excellence.